Can hear you perfectly okay. Can you hear me?
I can, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks so much,
Yeah.
Dwayne.
I could put my glasses on and we could look almost the same, kind
That
of.
might throw people off. They might mix
Yeah, that's right.
the beers.
Um, Good morning. How's your day going so far?
It's going okay. This is my first interview, so of course I wanted to make sure everything went well technically. I know we talked and um,
The,
went through the process, but I've never done it on my phone before. So, oh,
yeah,
I have put things on Do Not Disturb. You said put it on Do Not Disturb. Is that?
yeah. The cool thing about the Instagram lives is that it's a little, I don't know, in my opinion, I get nervous with these things too. So it's a little bit more of a kind of a more casual, less serious, less formal approach to an interview, and it's really just a conversation.
Yeah, I've watched the John Ferguson one, the Stephanie Belton one.
Yeah,
So I got a flavor for your style of interview and where we
good.
go from there.
Well, we talked a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about a lot of different things. And one of the things that I wanted to kind of start our conversation off on was you used to, or maybe you still do, but you have writing in your blood. You did a sci-fi novel, and from what I understand, you've been kind of a lifelong writer. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about that and what drew you to writing and how did that come about that you did a novel?
Well, it all goes back to my childhood.
Yeah,
No, I mean, it did start when I was young, and there were like four kids in the family at the time, and we were all very creative.
right.
And my creativity sort of manifested in writing,
Nice.
creating. I like to create, different worlds, things. I don't know if I probe psychologically, maybe I could find that I was trying to escape something. I don't know. My parents divorced when I was young. Who knows?
Right.
There's no need to get into that. But it was fascinating for me to create something out of nothing,
Yeah.
and whether it be a world, a character, and I think I guess I was always pretty shy, definitely growing up. Um, and I think that was my way of exploring the world you know, without sort of stepping into it. But what it did, it made me an observer,
Right.
and I was always watching. I was always trying to figure out why people do the things they do.
Mm.
And when you do that, you start to really sort of get a feel for authentic characters.
Yes.
And of course, we grew up watching TV, and I grew up on Monty Python and things like that. And you get a sense of humor. It's different than here in Canada, because I was born in England.
Right.
Um, it was different than Canada. It was drier, sort of. You really had to be paying attention, and I really like that, where I don't like to be spoon fed. So when I wrote, I like to try and um, give people information, go beneath the surface.
Yes.
So I became a study of characters and people, and again, why and now when I look back, of course, I was a kid, and growing up, you learn more. I studied psychology at university. I didn't graduate, but it was because of my fascination
Mm.
with people and why they do the things they do. And now I describe myself as a recovering introvert.
I love
We
that.
can go,
That's a great
yeah, we
line.
can go into that later if you want. But
Mm.
basically, if people saw me now, they might think, "Well, that guy's not an introvert." But
Yeah.
here in my heart and my soul, I am kind of shy.
Yeah.
But I am always an observer. I don't like parties. I don't like small talk.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that goes find back against the wall, find a place to observe and watch everyone and catalog and think. But that's what led me to writing, and had always been science fiction. I mean, Star Wars. I mean, it turned my life around when I was a kid, and it got those wheels turning, and I wanted to create things like that. Um, and it had been years and years and years of trying to develop that story.
Mm.
Now jump ahead, and I had taken a job as a a pretty mundane job. It was supposed to be a stopgap. It was
Yes.
a medical career,
Right.
so nothing creative, not at all. I had worked in animation. I had worked in various sort of peripheral
Mm,
creative fields, but nothing that satisfied my creativity. And
right.
writing always seemed like, well, that's what I am. That's what I've got to be. And I still feel that way to a large.
I guess to be a writer at the very core of it is to be a storyteller, a story observer. There's always going to be characters. So not to jump your story ahead, but photography is it's very much like good photography is very much about storytelling. Portraiture is right, and
It is, and I use all that everything I've ever done. It's funny. So just to back up a bit, I did get my book published, and that was during a time when at that mundane job,
right,
I had a slip and fall accident
yes,
and cracked my head on the sidewalk, and it could have been worse. I mean, just a couple of feet away, there was like the corner of a building, and
mm,
thought, maybe I wouldn't be here now. But I couldn't drive anymore for the job. So I thought, well, what am I going to do? So I was able to publish or get my book published.
right,
That was a major milestone. And I was like, oh, that's great. Done. Now what? And I thought, well, I want to teach myself something.
yes.
And I started to teach myself photography, which is something.
How do you teach yourself?
Well, YouTube is amazing.
Right,
Anyone that, I mean, yes, I know everyone has their different paths to get somewhere, but there's so many resources, there's so many
mm,
online mentors out there.
yes,
And yes, you've got to pick and choose, but once I got into, I found the people that taught me in a way that I could understand.
right,
Because in the past, I was like, aperture, ISO, shutter speed. I can't process that. My older brother was always into photography, and
yeah,
I always admired that, but it was sort of a whole different plane of understanding.
right,
So when I learned, I studied this, I thought, well, I'm going to really focus and figure this out. And once that little piece of the puzzle clicked, it was like, oh, okay, this is what you can do. And the things you can do with light, it's amazing.
yes,
And then that's when, as you say, storytelling, everything I'd ever done, like the psychology, the I had been sort of a supervisory positions, managerial, and where you've had to be um, sort of dealing with the public, dealing with people.
right,
And again, being an introvert, I had to push myself out of
yes,
that comfort zone. And all these threads that I'd sort of been dangling all my life, they were coming together. And I didn't realize, if you told me like 3 years ago that I'd be a portrait photographer, I would have, what are you talking about? You're nuts.
Warren, I find it a little bizarre because if anyone who's watching this goes on Warren's Instagram and then onto his website, and you've only been doing it 3 years, it's
Well,
surprising.
I did 2 years of portrait photography
Still,
and a little bit of real estate photography before that.
it's your work is very good. You connect with the subject. Your lighting is really, really beautiful, and it's not
Well,
la-di-da. It's not relying on the tips of style. It's quite simple, and it's quite nice. Um, you said a recovering introvert. Through Headshots Matter, I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of photographers, and surprisingly, and I think most folks would sort of think that as photographers we're extroverted because we can kind of take control of situations and help people feel less nervous and stuff. But I think many of us are introverts that have to play an extrovert role, and we have the camera as our buffer, as our protection, with sort of what with what might normally be sort of referred to as being shy or yeah, nervous ourselves. So I think it's actually almost a superpower to be an introvert and not to be too, overpowering when you're photographing somebody.
It is, and just in general, I've always found you learn more from observing, listening. Like
Yeah,
the people that like talk all the time, that they I sometimes sit there and think, you don't know about me. You're not asking about me, but that's fine. I'm learning about you from
yeah.
what you're saying, what you're not saying. So in breaking out of that introvert shell,
Hmm.
one of the other things when I was young, I wanted to be an actor
Right.
because I thought, well, now don't take this the wrong way, but I'm a pretty good liar, but I'm also extremely honest. And I think acting is finding the honesty, like you find the piece of yourself in that character
Hmm.
and you bring that. So what I had to do to get out of my being an introvert was almost create an alter ego. So
Hmm.
acting
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
part of the extrovert.
Yeah.
And it kind of gives you a sense of freedom and control. And you do have to assume control of it when you're photographing. You have to instill confidence in the
Hmm.
sitter so that they know that, okay, I
They
feel
can trust. They
comfortable.
can trust that you're in
Exactly.
charge of the
Exactly.
process.
Because if you're sitting there thinking, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing,
Hmm.
they're going to say, oh, what have I gotten myself into? And they're going to be even more anxious than they might be coming in.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a common trait, and you're right that the camera is the buffer,
Yeah.
because what I like to do is have the have the sitter think of the camera as their friend, their confidant. Um, I want them to talk to the camera, almost so that I'm not there.
Hmm.
Like if they've got, and I want them to connect with their eyes.
Yeah.
And so much of my work, if you look at it, it's the stories in the eyes.
Hmm.
There's emotion, and I want them to connect and tell that story to the camera. Leave me out of it. You don't have to tell. You don't have to speak.
Yeah.
You don't have to say anything. But I want them to connect with their eyes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And again, we have such an opportunity and perhaps even a responsibility to, there's so much control that we have as photographers in how we light, camera angle, low, high, side, the way the person's looking, what they're wearing, their expression. There's an immense amount of control. And I think it's our responsibility to try to photograph them in the best light possible while at the same time telling a wee bit of story. If you're shooting an actor, obviously it's a different story. It may be maybe a variety of stories. When doing corporate work, which I do mostly, I'm always trying to elevate that person so that they're professional yet approachable. You're doing things that are leaning more towards editorial, which I think is probably even a little bit more fun and a little harder to tell that editorial story. But do you know the story you're going to try to tell before the person shows up?
I try and do as much research as I can.
Yeah,
So my process starts. I like to start with a questionnaire. I send the client a questionnaire ahead of time, and
yeah,
depending on whether it's corporate or an actor or something else, musician, it's sort of curated to draw out information from them,
yeah,
things that maybe they don't even normally think of,
mm,
whether it be where their creativity comes from, where if it's a corporate thing, why they're in the profession they're in, what gives them satisfaction, a moment of pride in their job, what gives them pride.
yeah,
So I start with that, and all that is done beforehand. So I'm prepared, and I'll look at their social feeds. I'll look at their um, it's it's a way of getting a full picture of who
yeah,
they are, or a better picture.
Hmm.
And the way I talking about story, the way I look at everyone, if you everyone you pass on the street, everyone you encounter in your day
Hmm.
has a story.
Yeah.
They got a life, they got a rich life, and you've got them for just a sliver of that life.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I've got to try and pull as much as I can
Hmm.
of everything that makes them them. I know it's not going to get so deep into their psyche, but everything that makes them them,
Yeah.
and bring out the best of them. So again, for corporate, their story is, well, why did you get into this field?
Yeah.
What is it that makes you happy? Do you enjoy what you do? Never
Hmm.
mind that the boss might be standing close by, but what
Yeah.
do you know? And acts is the same thing. They're gonna want to perform because, oh, look, I've got to do my headshots. Well, no, yes and no. I you're gonna have to perform, but it's got to seem authentic. So
Hmm.
you've got to imagine what character you're trying to portray, what character you're talking to while you're portraying them,
Hmm.
and bring that out from yourself.
Hmm. It's such an interesting balance, right? To So when we're photographing somebody, we are capturing their authentic self,
Mhm.
but we're bringing something else to their authentic self. Even to light someone more dramatically with shadow isn't something that they're used to seeing themselves in the mirror, or them at work, or whether actors are a slightly different situation because they're always sort of in a role, I guess. But it's kind of a fun balance between being respectful to who they are, but also helping them be who they want to be, or even how we see them as being, to sort of elevate them to a role, actor or corporate. I think it's quite a fun dance, right?
It is. I mean, I shoot with artificial lights, so studio lights,
Yeah,
and I know a lot of people do it the reverse. When they're starting out, they're
yeah,
afraid of studio lights and they start with natural light.
yeah.
But I found the fascination in the artificial
Mm,
light
mm,
because everything that we create in the studio together is
yeah,
done with light.
it's new.
And so yeah, so they're not seeing, like we might be in the studio and they'll think, oh well, that's how I'm going to look.
Yeah,
But I shoot tethered and I'll show them, well, that's how it's going to
yeah,
look, and they're
yeah,
like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. Now, of course, I've got to fit the parameters. If it's a corporate shoot, of course, you don't want to go too dramatic. You've got to sort of
yeah.
capture them in a flattering light. But yeah, that lighting, that way of shaping and creating a story with the light, it
It's
is.
a, I guess, I use this expression now and then. We're sort of augmenting reality when we're bringing, a certain type of lighting into a scene, and sometimes people are pleasantly surprised, and then sometimes it's not what they're used to, right? They're used to seeing themselves in a mirror, so a reverse
Yeah.
flat lighting, and so we have to kind of get them sort of. I guess, feeling the love of what it's like to be photographed as opposed to just being.
Well, yeah, and that's why I have that discussion beforehand, so that
Yeah,
through the questionnaire, through chats, email chats, or phone chats,
yeah,
I want to understand what they want, what they're expecting
yeah,
from the shoot. I mean, if you look at my website, you'll know. You get a sense on my Instagram feed. You get a sense exactly what
yeah.
my style is. And yes, I can do the more corporate style, but I thrive in sort of the black and white, the
Hmm.
that sort of dramatic um, photography. It's where I come alive.
You know what I like, Warren? I don't know if I mentioned to you before, but so you have an ability to photograph a person, and it seems like you've let go, and they're being who they are and what they are, but you still seem to also capture a good attention to detail. I, being a corporate photographer, I'm always about the attention to detail, and I actually have to work hard to let go. But you've already got this really nice balance between, I don't know, just letting the person have a freeness, a lightness, but their hair isn't flying away, and their tie, or if it's for a corporate, there's good attention to detail, and I admire that ability, especially at such a short amount of time doing this. It's quite good. So not trying to charm you here, but
No, no, that's fine. It's lovely to hear, and I do appreciate the kind words.
and
It's
I think
nice
that I
to hear.
think that's, for the photographers that are watching this right now who might be starting out, I think that's the pinnacle of to be chasing something that feels that the photographer hasn't controlled things too much, but we still control things too much. As my creative partner and I always say, it's when we're shooting, is that we never want it to seem like we're trying too hard, even though we're trying really hard.
Yeah.
So it's just that fine dance, that fine balance.
Well, I found early on that that's what was happening. Like
Mm,
the models would come in, and
mhm,
they had it in their head that, well, I've got to do a certain thing, and I've got to pose in a certain way, and I've got to stand
mm,
a certain way.
mm,
And I was like, okay, that's nice. Let's get that out of your system,
mm,
and now that's it. We're done.
mm, mm,
Now I want you to just move freely.
mm,
I want you to go with how your body feels,
mhm,
and because sometimes the best poses are the transitions in between
uh,
poses.
yeah,
And they, when they're doing their, I've got to stand structured like this, well, whatever. But it's that subtle,
mm,
that sort of shift from one position to another where you
mm.
think, that's the one,
I
that's
like
the
that.
look. And that's what lets them relax. And
Mm,
I do find it does take time for both of us to get
mm, mhm.
comfortable with one
Yeah,
another's style and rhythms, and
yeah,
then sort of the magic happens, magic takes off. It's
yeah.
very that's very exciting when
Mm.
that happens, because it is sometimes like a switch.
Do you ever run into people that you're photographing that they're just so nervous that it's like, is there anything that you help them with to get them to let go of that nervousness?
Yeah, it's all like as I say, I have started a YouTube channel. I've done some videos, but it's
Yeah,
all in the connection, and it's all in the conversation. We're just having a conversation.
yeah,
Don't overthink it. Don't think, oh my god. And that is, I'm similar. If I stand on the other side of the camera, it's like, oh yeah, I didn't realize that's what that lens looks like.
yeah,
So forget about the lens. We're just going to chat. We're going to
yeah,
talk about your day. We're going to talk about your life,
yeah.
what brought you here,
Hmm.
and get them thinking about not the photo shoot.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they just start to channel themselves,
Hmm.
and they loosen up. And then, I'll take a few clicks here and there. And it just kind of, you know,
You
escalates
know,
from.
we're all, as photographers, we're all talking about AI these days. And what you've just explained, what you've just illustrated is the benefit and the advantage of emotional intelligence. So regardless of whether someone is introverted or extroverted, it's in order to do what we do well, I think we either have to be naturally emotionally intelligent or to learn emotional intelligent kind of cues that help us, I guess, be more curious about the person as opposed to having them learn about us. And so, when someone's nervous, as you say, you have a conversation, you try to engage trust, learn about their family, learn about who they are, learn about their life, learn about what makes them happy, sad, whatever. So I think, the thing that I've learned over the years, and that I'm learning even more by talking to a lot of photographers, is curiosity truly
Mhm.
is the superpower. But it's honing that curiosity so that you can use it as a tool to disarm and calm and help a person in front of our camera to just be themselves.
Yeah, it's like when I mentioned that I don't like parties, I don't like small talk.
Yeah,
Part of that is because the topics of conversation are so sort of mundane.
yeah.
But in the scenario where you're talking to someone in a studio and you're going to photograph them,
Hmm.
there is a genuine curiosity of me
Yeah,
wanting to find out more about them, and I think people like that. I think they respond to that,
yeah.
and then when they can talk about something they're familiar with, they do loosen up. They do.
Hmm.
And talking of AI, yes, that is. I did a video on this recently where that is the superpower,
Yeah.
the human touch.
Yeah.
Because let's hope not in our lifetimes, AI won't be able to replicate that. Because when they come in and they're nervous, or you're trying to elicit a memory from them, you AI won't know how to draw on that. It won't
Mm,
know the
mm,
specifics. It won't be able to spot that sort of that eye
mm,
movement, that hint of a smile, that
mm,
that sparks something.
mm,
There's a memory. Let me see if I can draw that memory out. Let me.
mm, mm.
So AI can't do that.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm not a technophobe. AI is here. There are ways it can be beneficial in
Sure.
streamlining sort of the mundane stuff in the workflow.
Hmm.
But with the people, hopefully that's always going to be the thing. I mean, I know with headshot photography, there are already apps out there
Yeah.
where you just upload a picture and there's a workable
Yeah.
headshot for you. But if you're satisfied with that, fine. Those people wouldn't have been the customers anyway.
I totally agree. I'm listening to, no, I'm not just listening to, I'm watching you speak. And that's the subtleties of expression. When you first started to explain what you just said, the eyes kind of went up, which allowed me to trust you more. There's these incredible subtleties of human interaction that combined with technical abilities and talent is really, really amazing. And for sure, AI is here, and I'm not even going to say it's here to stay. Obviously, it is, and it's really helpful to us. There's tools that we're able to use in post production, of course, but in the interaction of photographing somebody, I don't know. I just, as much as I can imagine, I can't see how it's going to take away what we bring. Like I think it just like all the other tools that we have, it'll be another tool. It's a pretty terrific tool on many levels, but it's really about like even you and I are having a conversation, and you're evoking things in my imagination, I'm evoking things in your imagination, and then we're letting things kind of flow. Again, put that into a photography scenario. AI, yeah, no, it's flat. I can't see it. So, um,
Well, it's funny you mentioned that it's here to stay, and I like to picture a world where sort of a post-apocalyptic world where
yeah,
um, AI has come, it's done its thing, and there's like this generic wasteland of these
yeah.
flat, boring photographs, and there's some group of freedom fighters that have to go and find the one last
I
photographer
like it. I
that
like
can
it.
take a live picture. I want to be around
Yeah,
when that happens, and I want to be the guy they come to. They dig out of a bunker,
yeah.
and I'm going to be crusty
That,
and old, and I'll have my camera, and
that's the sci-fi dude talking. I
that
like
is
it. I love it.
that's right.
I love it. Let's sort of shift sideways here. So when we chatted the other day, we also talked about that. Just the challenges of that all photographers are dealing with of how do you get business, how do you get new business, how do you get repeat business, how do you keep moving forward, how do you pay your way, pay your bills, and how do you not get discouraged when you have something really terrific to offer, when you just haven't quite cracked the nut on letting everybody know that you have this wonderful service and talent to offer. How do you keep going when things might not be going as well as you would like it to be going?
I think you just brought me to tears that way. Yes, it is frustrating.
Yeah,
Now, in the beginning, of course, you understand that I'm at the beginning. There's a learning
yeah,
curve.
yeah,
I've got to establish myself. Where it gets really frustrating is when you do like you think there's always people better than you, but I think I do a pretty good job,
yeah,
and that you think, well, why aren't I getting noticed? And when you hear that, even as recent as 5 years ago, Instagram, let's say, was a great place to get noticed. but it's changed so dramatically now. It's more sort of video driven, and there's so many people,
Yeah, it's
and
sponsored and boosted, and yeah.
yeah, and it's just really hard. So there's all kinds of different marketing tricks. You look at all the pundits and think, well, what do they have to say? What do they
Hmm.
have to advise? How? And I am trying all these different marketing techniques, but it is really hard to break through. Long gone are the days where you would take your physical book to a
A
sort of a,
director. Yeah.
yeah, and just say, hey, can you look at these? I don't even know where to find them anymore.
Mm.
They don't want to be found. They maybe work from home. Who knows? But it's very challenging. But I think I'm doing everything I can. Networking maybe is my one sort
Mm.
of weak spot where, because I don't know where they say, oh, just attend networking events. Well, which one? I don't know which ones would be beneficial to my style of photography. Um,
Yeah, it's I think networking, it's a big part of what I do every day with Headshots Matters. I help to make sure I do my very best to help, as many members get noticed, and also to keep their kind of spirits sort of high so that they're continuing to be consistent with their marketing and messaging and stuff. But networking, yeah, absolutely. There's again, let's go back to that emotional intelligent kind of story. There's something really wonderful about being face to face with people instead of relying on LinkedIn and Instagram and social media to do our networking for us. It just doesn't replace
mhm.
having a connection with people. Even what we're doing right now, I think. So yes, this is on Instagram Live, and it's going to be on YouTube, and it's going to be on the website, and it'll be on Facebook. But people are getting to a sense of how you and I interact with honesty and authenticity, and I think that's helpful. And I wish that there was a way that we could be doing more face to face networking. I wish I
Mhm.
could sort of come to Toronto. We could go do some of that together. That would be fun.
No, that would be cool.
Yeah.
But even just on a side note, you are a very, I find you're a very calming and reassuring
Yeah.
person. And even that alone, this connection and what you've done with Headshots Matter,
Mm.
is it does give one sort of a sense of hope, if you
Yeah.
will, and it's a great community that you're building,
Yeah.
and I'm happy to be part of it. It's really nice, and that's down to you because you're very warm and welcoming,
Yeah.
and not intimidating. I think people could be scared, especially if you're of the introvert
Sure.
persuasion.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. One of the things that I try to bring to it when I'm talking to photographers who are, as I call it, sort of doing the freak out that, I've been doing this for a really long time, and I know that it is a roller coaster. You will have highs, you will have lows. The highs will come back, and you have to just somehow see yourself through that. I used to I called them February freakouts because just being a commercial corporate photographer, half of December was super quiet. January, super quiet. So your bills are never quiet. So by the time February comes around,
The
your cash
budget.
flow is very low, but the bills are still there. So I would do the February freak out. And you're trying to anything. And I see it in our WhatsApp group, and the photographers are they're having their February freak out and maybe another month freak out. So if I can offer that calmness that, with sort of perseverance, trust in yourself, but you can't sit still. You have to be shooting all the time. I ask any photographer who is young and new, how often do they shoot? And they say, well, I don't know, whenever, a couple times a month. Or no, 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 no. You got to shoot every day. Like I talked to Johnny Edward about this, and you don't always have to shoot headshots or portraits because sometimes that's hard because you have to have a person, but shoot other things and
Yeah, I try
outdoor.
and take my camera with me everywhere I go, and I'm not always successful at taking
Yeah,
pictures, but it's ready to go. And
yeah,
I'm pretty good at approaching strangers,
yeah.
because that's sometimes Toronto's full of characters.
Yeah, there's a wonderful randomness. My wife Jennifer and I were in Toronto over the summer, visiting a few photographers, and we spent a little time on Queen Street west, and just walked, I don't know, 5 blocks up, 5 blocks down. It was phenomenal. So much fun. Of course, we both had our cameras. Jennifer shoots more street stuff. I'll just stop people and say, "Can I photograph you?" Because there're just so many cool characters. Yeah, Toronto is it's a candy store for sure, for sure.
Um, yeah, I just wanted what you said about how do I, like the marketing angle and how do I, get business. And
Yeah,
I find it very hard to break through the doors of, say, take talent scouts,
yeah.
acting studios, that sort of thing. They all seem to have their preferred photographer,
Hmm.
and they're very reticent to break away from that. And
Yeah.
they might like my stuff, they might compliment me, but they won't
Mm.
sort of deviate. And I don't want to sort of poach clients or try,
Mm.
but sometimes you feel like you have to, like you want
Yeah.
to get in there. Same with
Mm.
magazines
Mm. Mm.
and like editorial directors and creative directors. Man, uh, just even hearing back from them, I've been reaching out to publicists,
Yeah.
and I am okay. I'm not young, you know that, and since I've come to this relatively late in my life, I don't have a lot of runway.
Yeah.
I wish I had another 20 years on the other end
Yeah.
of takeoff time. And I know you've been doing this for over 40 years, which that's amazing.
Mm.
But I don't have that time. I look like, oh, geez, like I tell my wife I've got like, maybe I got 10 years of this. I don't know.
I
But
totally understand. Like the older we get, regardless of our age, whatever anyone's age is, you get impatient. You want it to, you want
yeah,
to make it
there's a
roll,
sense of
right?
urgency.
Yeah, yeah. Which is kind of fun. If anyone's watching this, right now, direct message me any ideas you have on how a photographer can better connect with, casting agencies or actors, because it is a little bit of a tricky nut to crack. LinkedIn is wonderful for corporate, that type of work, but it takes time. You can't. It's not an overnight thing. But the actor, the thing I know, we have a lot of UK photographers who are that do a lot of this stuff, actors, and they have their connection with agencies and actors, and Instagram does work for them. But in Canada, I'm not quite sure what the answer is in
I don't know
Toronto.
what it is. I do notice that, especially even within the Headshots Matter community,
Yeah,
the UK group seems to be a lot more
yeah,
sort of cohesive.
yeah,
And I think maybe it's because it's a small country and you're more tightly packed, and you
yeah,
feel that, well, I could just hop on a train and
mm,
we could meet. But
yeah,
Canada is like, oh my god. But
yeah,
LinkedIn, I find it quite impersonal.
yeah,
I don't. People will reach out and they'll connect, and they think, and I'll connect back, and I think, well, okay, and I'll send a message. But
yeah,
why did you connect with me? What was it
yeah.
about me? Why are we bothering with this? I don't
Mm,
like phoniness. Don't give me
mhm, mhm,
phoniness.
mhm.
I like
Yeah, I
authentic.
so on that note, Warren, because and yes, it does have a little bit of that relative impersonalness to it. I'm sure that's not a real word, but
Uh,
I just used it.
I'm,
Um, uh, because it is that, it's a social media platform that has opportunity for us to shine even more. I tell everyone, just keep using LinkedIn, keep doing what you're doing. You will. You will stand out if you're producing content that is authentic, beautiful, helpful, real. Most of the content that gets produced on not produced gets shared on LinkedIn is reposted, and it's dry, and it's selfies. It's so when we have the opportunity to photo to share photography, our original photography, I think it can stand out. And I think it just requires perseverance. The times that I've had really good success on LinkedIn, it's when I photograph somebody who is fairly well loved in my community, in Ottawa, and in the corporate world, and on LinkedIn, and I posted a photograph of them that I've shot, and I linked them into it, and then they comment, and then they share. It can really go quite crazy.
Yeah.
Now, but you have to be consistent. You know, a lot of any new business that I get that's corporate business, it almost always has a relationship to LinkedIn. People, and they may not interact with me. They may not ever comment on a post, but then they'll send me a message looking to do either themselves or their team, and they'll say, yeah, I've been watching your stuff, over the last months or a couple of years, and it's okay, it's time. So I don't know. I think it's a certain amount of faith is required with it, and
It is, and that's what they say. Like
yeah,
even they say it's a long game, like to get traction. And a lot of 3 years seems to be
yeah,
the limit. And I've just hit my 2 year anniversary
yeah.
doing it, so I go, oh god, I got another year of this.
The thing is,
But
the
things
thing
are
is, business is a long game. Anyone that thinks it's not, it's always has to be a long game, a game of patience. So I'm trying to think of, we've got some members that are doing really, really great work on LinkedIn. Georgie Green, Stephanie Belton, they're two
I do
members
see
that
them. Yeah.
it's consistent. If it isn't daily, it might even be twice a day, and they're sharing their work, but they're also sharing their helpfulness for clients to sort of kind of get, have some takeaways. I really admire Chris Henry also is
Yep.
really pushing out some stuff now, and not all content will hit it with people, but you never know. I was talking with a woman yesterday uh, who is used to work for LinkedIn corporate in the UK, and I'm hoping to get a little bit more insights from her about sort of kind of ways that things can, I don't know, we can get more out of it. But she said something interesting that if you don't, within the first 5 minutes of a post, if you don't get engagement, it doesn't work as well for the algorithms. I think my
Well, that's
thought.
not very encouraging, is it?
No, no, it's not. I don't know if that's really the way it is, but she had some
I think that's the
insights.
way it is.
Yeah. So I think that there could be some strategies that we, as a community, we can be looking for each other's posts, but we really do want to get our clients to be
Yeah.
seeing our work and interacting with it.
I think this is where my innate introversion is a detriment because
Yeah.
I was raised not to be a bother.
Okay. So here we go though. So introvert, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I would put it on your headline to describe who you are as a recovering introvert. I love that. So half and half of everybody out there are introverts, and lots of people will relate to what you're saying. I think that could be an interesting post.
Well, it does factor heavily in my landing page on my website. I didn't
Yeah,
want to put it in my headline just because it's like the H1 SEO, all
yeah.
that stuff. I didn't really
But
want
but
to.
on
But
LinkedIn,
I
I think
have
it
done a
might be.
video on it. I did
Hmm.
a video
Okay.
on it. I pushed that video
Okay.
on because I am there. I am you. I have been
Yeah.
that person, and
Yeah.
I will help you. This is how I deal with.
Hmm. Hmm. All right.
If
Well, you and I we're gonna work on some strategies on
if you
on
want to share
LinkedIn.
that video, I wouldn't say anything.
I'm told I'm going to do that this afternoon for sure.
Thank you.
Um, so maybe there's one, we're getting close to being kind of done here, but no, we're never done, Warren. But if you could give, you and I are similar vintage, and but what advice would you give somebody who was starting out, who might be in their 20s or 30s that are maybe transitioning out of something and into this fun business?
I would say don't get hung up on the technical stuff. I don't mean learn. You've got to learn the basics, the technical basics.
Yeah,
But what used to frustrate me is that I'd see people posting their pictures and they'd say, "Oh, I'm shooting with a Canon
yeah,
R3 and it's
yeah,
a 85 millimeter 1.2." I don't care.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't care. How does the picture look? How does the work look?
yeah.
What is your understanding of lighting? What is your understanding of how to connect? So anyone, here's my advice, anyone can learn the technical aspects
Hmm.
of photography.
Yeah,
I'm proof of that because my brain didn't think it could handle it and I did it.
yeah.
what you have to learn, and I don't know if everyone can learn this, is how to connect to another human being.
Yeah.
It's that simple. You have to, and not, it's not about you, it's about them.
Yeah. I don't know if you can, well, I'm going to be hopeful and I think you can learn it. I think some people it's more natural
I don't
to.
know. There's some horrible people out there. Let's be honest. There's good people. There's people that can connect with other people and people that can't. And
Yeah.
maybe you're a great technical photographer, but you are
Yeah.
cold and
Mm,
imposing, and you frighten the crap out of people. I don't
yeah.
know.
Yeah, I've never been a gear guy, and
Mm.
when someone asks me, what kind of camera should I get, I say, yeah, I don't know. I should go and
Use
talk
what
to
you
go.
have.
Yeah, yeah, well, definitely use what you have, definitely, but also hold it. How does it make you feel? And I think that's more important. And it's as I've always said, it's not what you've got, it's what you do with what you've got. And so you definitely don't have to have the best of the best. You need to have something that works for you.
Yeah, I
And
started with a Canon M50 Mark II. I
right,
mean, it was I didn't know I was going to do. I was doing real estate to begin with,
yeah,
and then I branched, and it's like, and one light.
hmm,
And that's where I learned to make the most of that one light,
yeah,
and a reflector, and to get creative. I
yeah,
think I said this in our phone conversation. It's like, not that I'm like Steven Spielberg, I'm not saying that, but Steven Spielberg making Jaws,
yeah.
it was because of his limitations that he
Hmm,
made time.
hmm.
And
Yeah, there's something about that, right? The less you have, like a real true creativity is it's about sort of having parameters, and sometimes those parameters are having limited light, limited time, limited situation. Even a person that's not very easy to photograph, those are all limitations,
mm,
and it's what you do with those things. And then back to lighting, our buddy Sean in Stockholm, he's a big believer in minimal lighting. I remember when Sean and I first met, talked. I think I mentioned this to you. I asked him about his lighting. He said, "Well, I put the light here, and I do a shot. Maybe I don't like it. I'll raise it up or I'll lower it."
that's
And
exactly
it's
what I
like
do.
it's just, is that technical? Well, yes and no. Like you have to use your eye and make a determination, but it's not about being, incredibly proficient with technology. It's about, I don't know, making friends with technology and still making it work for us. But if you could have all of that proficiency and not a good connection, and it's like,
Yeah.
wow, then you've got nothing. So
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, talking about lighting, that probably know Lindsay Adler, who does a lot
yes,
of, and her lighting is amazing. And
yeah,
I've learned so much from her, but she does very elaborate
yeah,
lighting setups. That will never be me, but
yeah,
I can still learn from it.
yeah,
But yeah, I'm sort of like Sean, and that it is an experimentation because sometimes you find a lighting setup, you think,
yeah,
oh, that works in a way I hadn't thought
yeah,
it might.
yeah.
So you have an idea in mind what you want to do, and you change, you feather it differently, whatever.
And it's I'm in awe of those that can do those very elaborate lighting setups. Lindsay Adler, Johnny Edward is doing some beautiful stuff with lighting, and but again, they're still connecting. Like it's not one
Yeah,
or the other. It's
again,
it's a
that's what I mean.
combination.
That's
Yeah,
the key. That's
yeah,
my main advice.
yeah,
You have to.
yeah.
Um,
When I talked with Johnny couple of months ago, a lot of people are very in awe of his work and his aesthetic and his personality. Strip all of that away. He's a good man who respects the people he shoots, and he engages their trust. And that's why his work is so
mhm,
wonderful, in my opinion. And so I think that's,
that's key.
to complement your advice to the younger photographers, work on that, work on your connection with people and engaging trust, and to help them feel good about being in front of the camera.
Yeah, I think they get so caught up in, do I have all the gear? I gotta have the gear, and it's,
Hmm, hmm,
I don't care. I don't care when people, and I lit it with this, and I put, look, unless I'm shooting in exactly the same environment as you, I don't care what your lighting setup was really.
Yeah.
I find it more of a fun challenge to say, how did they like that? Let me see if I can figure out what camera they or what
Right.
lens they use,
Right.
and that's the learning experience for me. And
Yeah.
yet always keep learning. That's the other thing. Always learn. I learn something new every single day.
Yeah,
You
for sure. You know,
can't
I think
stagnate.
that's the thing that when you have a bunch of years behind you, yeah, again, when I was younger, you think I'm going to learn all this stuff, and then I'm going to get to a point where I kind of know all this stuff. But the more that you get to know, the more you get to understand that you got a heck of a lot still yet to learn.
Especially
And
when you see the other people that like
yeah,
there's always better people than you and you think,
yeah,
wow, wow, how did they do that? I want to
yeah,
be doing that.
yeah. Yeah, the people that I've, over the years really admired is the ones that ask a ton of questions and are curious. And anyone who, any of us creative entrepreneurs, the moment in which you say, I got it all figured out, I think that's the time to close the door.
Yep.
And I think all the great artists, the painters and sculptors and photographers, musicians that are still doing their thing in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, they all say the same thing. They're still learning, still going, still got lots of curiosity
That's
and
life. Every aspect of life, you're
yeah,
always learning. You never go in
yeah,
thinking, "Well, I know it all. I got nothing to learn from this guy."
yeah.
Like it doesn't matter. I can learn from a kid. I can learn the
Mhm.
beauty of
True.
something that I may have looked at that same thing for all my life, and
Yeah.
a kid will come along and see it in a completely different way,
Mm, mm,
open my eyes.
yeah. Um, so if to give anybody some clues to how to find your work, how do they do that?
Well, my website. I don't know if you'll link any of this, but I've got my
I'm, I'm
website,
gonna I'm gonna do that.
Instagram, LinkedIn. I've got my YouTube channel, which I also did a video on imposter syndrome. If anyone's interested.
So how so what type of work what type of content are you producing on YouTube?
It's funny because you probably know Pi Jerser as well, the
No.
online. He's a he's a photographer, he's an educator, but
Right,
one of his lessons was to create long form content. So I thought,
right,
okay, I better create some long form content.
right.
So I started a channel. I wasn't quite sure who I was targeting.
Hmm,
I wasn't sure if I was targeting the photographer that might watch it or the client that might watch it.
hmm,
So it's still new, so there's only a handful of videos,
hmm,
but it's kind of geared towards both. And photography, the imposter syndrome one, AI, that sort of thing.
hmm,
But also, I'm trying to the potential client that might
hmm,
see me and think, oh, okay, I'm looking for a photographer. That guy seems like I could trust him.
hmm,
So it's not technically educational. It's more emotionally educational with
hmm,
regards
hmm.
to the photography.
Yeah.
And I do
Um,
showcase a bit of my work. So
I think that's important, right? You're sharing your mindset and yeah, as opposed to trying to, maybe that's why you and I relate so well. Is that I've never really wanted to be a teacher of the technical, but I'm very happy to talk with anybody and everybody about mindset and calmness and
yeah, I did actually shoot a little while ago with another photographer. She does
yeah,
sort of couples and weddings, that sort of thing.
mm,
And she wanted to see my process.
mm,
And I was happy to share that, not so much the technical stuff, but how to
mm,
get
mm,
the a client comfortable, how to get
mm,
them to relate to the camera. And I
mm,
hope that was eye opening for her. I mean, we can learn from each other. I can learn from what she does too.
yeah.
And I love that sharing of different styles.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be wonderful if there was some way to have more of that, because I think as photographers, we tend to kind of do our craft in isolation, right? We don't really get to be an assistant anymore or get to sort of watch how someone else handles creative problems or interactions or even
Mhm.
lighting. So, I know there's folks out there that teach seminars about all that stuff, but it's really about sort of if you could be a fly on the wall and to be to see how the next person solves a problem. A long time ago, I used to have an assistant named Lindsay, and Lindsay was young. She was, I don't know, early mid 20s, and quite creative and quite artsy. And what we used to do is we'd hire two. We didn't hire, we did tests. So through a modeling agency, they sent over two models, and then we would shoot each of those models. And so let's say we are going to do the first one. Lindsay would decide what she was going to do, and I would be her assistant. And then once she did what she did, then I would do what I wanted to do, and then she'd be my assistant. And so we had two very different approaches with one person, but we were helping each other kind of do what the other person wanted to do. And it was really fun. She was my assistant. She had just gotten out of photo school, but she still has so much that I could learn from. And I haven't done that in a long time. So that could be a fun thing
But did you
for.
find it hard to, when you were being the assistant, did you find it hard to sort of, oh, I can't step in, I can't really say what I want to say? Were you
That's
just the assistant? Or?
That's a good question. I found it fun because and being an assistant. Okay, lots of people are listening to this, watching this, and they're thinking, an assistant. What's an assistant? So, because that's the way that all photographers became photographers back in the day. You had to be an assistant first. You had to. No other way around it. And now people are kind of they're just doing their learning, and then they're becoming a photographer. So to be an assistant, you have to think differently. You have to think ahead of the photographer. You have to sort of watch how they're lighting, how they're interacting, learn from that, help them when they need a hand. I wish there was so that was apprenticeship, and I think yeah, it would be good. And maybe in the very large markets, there's still that going on, but
Mm,
most of the photographers that we have, a lot of them are self-taught, or they've done like what you've done. They've learned on YouTube or seminars, but not by doing 2 to 5 years as an assistant. Yeah,
yeah,
it's interesting. There's something that you say on your website in the About section that I quite like. That you say it's only the beginning, and I think we've kind of alluded to some of that stuff, which I think is quite fun. That you've haven't been doing this professionally for a long, long time, but you still see it. You're figuring it out. But then I like the fact that you still say that it's the beginning,
it,
and it's only the beginning. I think that's good.
it is for me. Hopefully, it is only the beginning. I've got, as I say, I've got this sort of accelerated mindset where I've got,
Urgency.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
may not be able to pick up a camera in a few years, but while I can, I am swinging for fences that maybe if I were younger, I would think, no, there's time for that. There's
yeah,
no time for that. I would love to get into celebrity photography, and I do question myself why. I mean,
yeah,
is it ego? I don't know. Is it obviously notoriety? If I can photograph a celebrity, maybe I'll get noticed and
yeah,
more people would hire me. But what that wouldn't change is my process, because it doesn't matter if you're famous or not famous. I want to tell you've got a story just as valid as the celebrity story, maybe even more so.
yeah,
And sometimes I'll see a picture of a celebrity and I'll think, okay, is that picture notable because of the person that took it?
yeah,
Why am I like it may not be the best picture in the world.
mm,
So if I could bring what I can bring to
yeah,
that, I'd
yeah,
love to do that.
yeah,
But the person that's just on the way up, you've got just as powerful a story that I want to tell as well.
yeah.
So it's that mindset I want to take as far as I can take it.
We talked a little bit about this when you and I talked for the first time a couple weeks ago, and
Mm.
and I still believe that it would be an interesting idea to create a personal project that you kind of just start where you can start, then ask that person who they could recommend, and they could recommend, and they could recommend. And before you know it, you're actually photographing some people with a certain level of notoriety. And I
Mm.
think it
That's what I'm
just keep
building up to.
keep pushing, man.
Yeah.
John Ferguson, who's one of our members, and we did a Studio
Yep.
Talk live with him recently, and he used to shoot a lot of celebrities, everybody
I
from
know. I was
David
amazed by
Bowie
Bruce Willis and
to lots of people.
David
And
Bowie.
he just sort of saw them as just folks.
Yeah.
If anything, their notoriety made it more difficult because they brought along agents that
Yeah, and
made
for
it
me
difficult.
that sounds like a cool challenge because yes,
Yeah, yeah,
I'd be in a completely different, I'd be on the back foot trying to, trying to exert
yeah,
my methods. But
yeah.
yeah, you've got all this entourage. Uh,
I have an idea. So as you already know, I'm going to London
yes.
next month on the 12th, and I'll be there
Do you
for
need me
almost
to
a
come and
week.
carry your bags or your
I
equipment?
kind of do,
Is
and
that
then
your idea?
you can talk to John. He's going to be at our little meetup, and yeah, that would be fun. I wish there was a way that we can get
Mhm.
uh, all of us in one place, but we'll work towards that.
Mhm.
All right. Well, I think that's gonna finish us up on
Very
this.
cool. Thank you so much for having me, and
Yeah.
to anyone who's listening, thanks for taking time to.
Warren, you're a great communicator, and you have a great humility and a good inner confidence and a curiosity that I'm very grateful that you're part of
Thank you.
what we're up to here. So thank
Thank you.
you.
Sometimes, yeah, it feels like we exist in a vacuum. So it's that's very kind of you to say that.
Yeah. So we'll talk more, and thanks for today. And yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Take care,
Okay.
everyone. Bye.
Cheers. All right.
Bye.
Okay.